Take a seat, Rick. This is going to take a little while. Rick's my brother. What a long journey it's been. You and I have been through a great deal together. We've stood up here in this sanctuary side by side at countless Christmas Eve services where all of the little kids were so excited that they talk and shout through all of our prayers. We've called on a dying man together in his last days and held his hands and prayed together. We've traveled across the country together to do mission work. We made a great team. You worked. I watched. We've shared communion, talked shop, and swapped stories. We've been friends, and now, today, we are colleagues. This summer, you invited me to officiate at your wedding between you and Ellyn, a request for which I am deeply honored. Upon the occasion of my own ordination, my mother gave me this book. It's called The Pastor Preacher, a timeless manual for today's ministers, written in the year 1910. As a bright-eyed young pastor, I opened the book for the first time and read the following lines. The strong man's vocation is what preaching is. Those who want to do embroidery must not come here. The football men are the men wanted here. The center rush men who heed not the opposing line, how hard it is to break, but break it. Such men are the preacher type. I would have every candidate for the ministry play football. I scarcely found this advice inspiring, as it didn't describe me at all. I happen to enjoy embroidery. But it does describe you, Ricks. A man who played football in both high school and college, a man who has probably spent more time in the gym than I've spent awake. A man who one might describe as the author of this book describes the ideal preacher as one fit to wrestle Hercules to the ground. I could not craft a better description of Rick's Thorsell. Times have certainly changed since this book was written, mostly for the better, I think. Fortunately for most of us, physical strength and athletic acumen are no longer prerequisites for ordained ministry. And yet, the vocation of professional ministry does require something from us who pursue it. Not brute strength or force, but wisdom and humility and fortitude of spirit, all things that you have in spades. You once told me, Ricks, and this I have to say was before he began working with Scott at Downers Grove. Rick said to me, I really value our relationship because you're the only male mentor I have in the ministry. I said, wow, I'm so sorry. But while I may perhaps not be the best role model, I do want to leave you with some thoughts today, a few crumbs of wisdom that I've acquired over the years that I suspect may help you to navigate the contours of your new life in the church. First and foremost, for 1 year, and only for 1 year, show up to everything. Go to every church meeting, every cocktail party, every play at the high school. Call it paying your dues. It's a great way, perhaps the only way, to really get to know everyone and to understand how the church operates. But after that first year, I want you to learn to say no. I want you to ease back, prioritize, focus on where your energy ought to be spent rather than running yourself ragged trying to be all things to all people. Secondly, remember that setting boundaries and saying no to things isn't just good for your own sanity. It's actually good for the church. It's good for the congregation. Because as a minister, it's your job to equip the saints for ministry, in the words of St. Paul. That means when someone comes up with an idea that they want you to implement it, you should put it back on them. He's obviously passionate about it. Let him run with it and give him the help that he needs to make it a success and a reality. You may be the congregation's servant, biblically speaking, but you're not their manservant. So don't be afraid to delegate tasks and put them to work. Jesus made disciples. Moses delegated work to his elders. That's how we build up the church. That's how we build up our community, not alone, but together, always together. My third suggestion applies specifically to working with teenagers. Now, much as I was when I first began my ministry, you're coming right out of seminary, you're relatively young, and it's easy to feel, Ricks, like you're one of them sometimes. It's easy for them to feel that way too. And I just want you to remember, always remember that you're still the adult in the room. And don't let the rest of them forget it. If you don't, you might end up getting your hair dyed in the middle of the night on some youth retreat, or getting talked into wearing a banana suit and recording a rap song as part of an elaborate plot to help some kid ask someone out to the high school dance. And then someone will take those pictures of you in said banana suit and put them on the internet, where they can be found to this day. This is all, of course, purely hypothetical. And finally, in the work of the ministry, you'll sometimes feel like you're not good enough. You'll always put a lot of pressure on yourself. So I just want you to remember, you don't have to be perfect. None of us is called to be perfect. You just have to be really good. And you are really good. You are called for a time such as this. These are my charges to you, Ricks. Show up, share the work, and never forget who you are. When I was ordained, Pastor Ellyn gave me a piece of advice that I've never forgotten. She told me that if I have to be someone that I'm not in order to do this job, then I'm doing it wrong. So stay true to yourself. If you're in the right church, and I believe that you are, people will love you for who you are, just as you love them, just as God loves us all. It's a remarkable thing to be here today, to stand up here and to bear witness to the culmination of all of these years of faithful preparation. Looking at you today, Ricks, I'm reminded a bit of myself at your age, a younger, taller, stronger, and better-looking version of myself. And in 10 years, I imagine that you'll be standing up in the pulpit, passing the torch down to one of your own students as they embark on the same journey. And on that day, you'll understand just how proud I am.